I am Ruth McEwen, Advisory Council member serving on the Northwest Senior and Disability Services Advisory Councils. I want to welcome candidates, incumbents, and Advisory Council members to the 2024 Candidate Interview Forum. This program features candidates and incumbents from districts serving Clatsop, Marion, Polk, Tillamook, and Yamhill counties, and is sponsored by our Senior Advisory Council and our Disability Services Advisory Council. Northwest Senior and Disability Service is a local governmental organization that provides Medicaid, Oregon Project Independence, Older Americans Act, and grant-funded programs. The mission of the Northwest Senior and Disability Service is to promote dignity, independence, and health, honor choice, and empower people. The assistance and support we provide to consumers includes information, assistance, in-home and community-based services, financial and medical help, meal site and home-delivered meals, options counseling, adult protective services, Medicare counseling, and peer mentoring, money management, as well as health and wellness programs. Because of the number of state legislative districts that our service area covers, we have invited a large number of candidates to our candidate interviews. Each candidate has been given information on the format used in these interviews. Each candidate will be introduced by a member from the advisory councils, and then candidates will have the opportunity to answer questions which will be timed. We thank these candidates for their willingness to share their views about services for Oregon seniors and people with disability.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Statz. I'm a member of the Senior Advisory Council and Disability Services Advisory Council at Northwest Senior and Disability Services. Today, I'm interviewing Representative Tracy Cramer. She's a Republican candidate for Oregon House District 22, and we'll be asking Representative Cramer questions related to seniors and people with disabilities. Welcome, Representative Cramer. Thank you for coming and sharing your time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be able to join.
Glad you're here. So tell us about the votes and legislation you've supported last session that directly benefited seniors and people with disabilities.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest conversations is many legislatures are looking to increase property tax by reforming Measure 5 and 50. That is something that I have adamantly opposed. This, of course, would affect seniors and people with disabilities massively, as most of them live on a fixed income. So that's one thing that within conversation I have, like I said, have really opposed. I think that's just something that would negatively affect that group of people. And I certainly see that and can see it throughout my district and really all of Oregon. So that's something I'm very passionate about, and making sure that seniors and people with disabilities have a voice in that conversation. I was also so proud to co-sponsor a bipartisan bill, House Bill 4146. This bill expanded the Elderly Persons and Persons with Disabilities Abuse Prevention Act, and prior to that bill passing, a victim had very limited venues to seek justice. So I was really excited and proud of that bill going through.
Thank you. How would you prioritize state funding, including funding that is matched with federal funds, such as Medicaid, for services to an ever-expanding number of seniors and people with disability?
Mm-hmm. Great question. So I think generally speaking, I'm always excited when we're able to pull back federal dollars back to our state. I think most people are, and I certainly am one of them. We all pay federal taxes, and to get it back into our state and to incentivize it back into our state, I think is always a positive. So I think that's an easy thing to support. I'm not on I wasn't on the Ways and Means Committee itself, so I didn't have a direct, vote in that particular committee to outline the funding that would, go directly to different parts of what Ways and Means looks at. But of course, that does go to the House floor, and we have a vote on that bill and what that looks like at the end of the day. I would say I'm always very supportive of ways to pull money into Oregon when it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, and pulling it back into Oregon from the federal level. So very supportive.
Good. Thank you. It is becoming increasingly challenging for seniors and people with disabilities to obtain housing due to constantly rising housing costs and an insufficient supply of disability-accessible housing. What will you do on a state level to prioritize affordable, accessible housing?
So I helped pass the historic housing package that included some of the land use reform that was much needed. I think it's a small step in the right direction. I think there's definitely more work to be done, and we see that again across all of Oregon, certainly in my district as well, just a shortage of housing. And I would love to be a part of making sure that we're making it more accessible, really cutting the red tape so that builders can build, that we have more housing available. And then it kind of ties back to my first part too, which is making sure that these individuals, once they are housed, can stay in their house, and that they can afford to live in their house and not increasing things like property tax. And I think that's a real struggle for, like I said, individuals with fixed incomes. And I certainly see that not only in my district, in my own family as well, an absolute huge struggle. So I'm very supportive of making sure that it's affordable for seniors and people with disabilities, and still working on that. I think there's more to come, but I think we did take a step in the right direction.
Thank you. What would you support on a state level to prioritize access to healthy, nutritious food for seniors and people with disabilities?
Yeah, I love this question. I think it's something I'm very passionate about. I love seeing some of the legislation that's gone through in partnership with our ag community. Most of Oregon has a vibrant ag community, in any ways that we can partner and make it more accessible for seniors and people with disabilities to access that produce and product, I think is just wonderful. I'd love to see more of that. I am very passionate about making sure that things are just healthy, and of course, that's just such an important role in everyone's lives, and something that I'm very excited about. And I think there again that we can do some better things with partnering with the ag community to make it more accessible.
That's wonderful. Thank you. What would you do to address the behavioral health needs of older adults and people with disabilities?
Yeah, so I was excited. I got to work with Governor Kotek in getting some funding for our Woodburn Community Center that's here locally. And that center will provide a resource, quite a few different resources, including counseling and kind of a hub of resources for seniors and people with disabilities and the whole community in general. So I was really excited to partner and be able to work on that and get some funding for my local community. The other thing that I worked on, it didn't end up going through, but really talking about a interstate nurse compact, which was would have opened it up to make it more available for nurses throughout the nation to move and be able to come into Oregon and work and still have it be a safe environment to practice in Oregon. Unfortunately, that didn't see the finish line, but I think that there's still more conversation because, of course, one of the big points is that we have to make this healthcare, we have to make it accessible. And right now, with so much workforce issue, I don't think that it's as accessible as it could be. So I would love to look more into that and really work on more of that, because we need the workforce to grow so that these individuals can get the care that they need.
Yeah, we do. Well, thank you very much. We've been visiting today with Representative Tracy Cramer, a Republican candidate for Oregon House District 22. Thank you, Representative Cramer, for joining us today for this interview.
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you. My honor. Thank you.
I want to thank the candidates on behalf of the members of the Senior Advisory Council and Disability Service Advisory Council of Northwest Senior and Disability Services for attending our candidate interviews. We hope the information that has been provided will help you make informed choices when you vote. The opinions expressed here are not endorsed by Northwest Senior and Disability Services. For more information or to get connected to services provided by Northwest Senior and Disability Services, call 1-866-206-4799. The advisory councils for Northwest Senior and Disability Services would like to thank Capital Community Media for their production of the forum. Thank you for watching.